Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm here with my husband, Rabbi Yaakov Palatnik, and our two children. We've had the most amazing time here in South Africa. I want to thank some of the people who hosted us, the Jasanowski family and the Aronsons. And I spoke for different communities, for Isha Torah and for Rabbi Goldstein's community and for At the Base. And everybody we meet is so welcoming and so warm and so hospitable and generous. But I have to tell you, we went away with the Siegels and the Abramsons. They took us to a safari. We went to Pilanesberg, to Black Rhino, and we had the most fantastic time. And I have to tell you, I was telling the Or Sameach Savoy community this Shabbos that, I'm a little bit famous in the world, in different parts of the world for different things. But now, my claim to fame when I come to South Africa is that I went on safari and I saw 5 wild dogs tear apart an impala. Okay. It was a little bit barbaric, but I understand it's a very cool thing to see. So really, it was tremendous, and your community is very, very special, and I want to thank you for hosting us in such a beautiful way. The talk and what I'm going to share with you this morning is very different than anything else I speak about, because it's very personal. It's very personal. 8 years ago, I had the incredible, unbelievable opportunity to donate my kidney to a woman I have never met before. And I'm here to tell you, it was the greatest experience of my life. That nothing compares to it. I'm going to share with you some of the story of how it all happened, what I learned from it, and how I grew from it, and hopefully you can take some of the messages into your own life. The whole thing started we live in the Washington, D.C. area now, but it started about 12 years ago when we were living in Denver, Colorado. My husband was learning with a more mature gentleman, and we became close with him and his wife. And one day my husband said to me, "Do you notice that he wears a beeper?" And I'm like, "Yes." I asked why. He said, "Because he's waiting for a kidney." I thought, oh my gosh, I never knew anyone who was in this situation. So that night I Googled, I went onto Rabbi Google and Googled kidney donation, kidney transplant, kidney foundation. And really I just wanted to know what he was going through. Before I started this, I have to tell you, I didn't even know where my kidneys were or what they did. I knew I had them. You have 2 4-ounce kidneys right here. And they are filters. It means things are going in to your body. They're supposed to filter all the toxins or poisons or anything bad out. And everything good stays in. But if they're not working, that means everything bad stays in. And you get sicker and sicker and sicker. So as I'm Googling around these sites, some of them are heartbreaking. There are people out there who are posting, "Save my mother's life, save my son's life, save my life." And on the Kidney Foundation site, they list what the criteria of what would make a good kidney donor. And I'm going through the list, and as I go, now I want you to appreciate that what makes a kidney, first of all, the most important thing is your blood type. Your blood type. How many people here do not know their blood type? I know South Africans don't like to raise their hands, but come on. You don't know. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know their blood type. It's very blood driven in the kidney world. How does it work? Anybody here an O? Are you an O type? O? Okay. O's, we are, and I'm an O, we are universal donors. That means you can give to any blood type, but you can only receive from an O. Is anybody here an AB? AB blood type? So ABs, you are universal receivers. You can receive from any blood type, but you can only give to an AB. Every other blood type here, you can receive from your blood type or an O, but you can only give to your blood type. Do you see how that works? So I'm an O. I'm an O. So I'm an O positive. That means I can give to any blood type. And as I go through the list of the criteria, in my mind, I'm like, check, 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 check. What are the other criteria? You have to be healthy. You can't have any kidney disease in your family or a history of it. You can't have diabetes. You can't have had any of those, God forbid, diseases. And you can't be very, very overweight or very, very underweight. So I'm like, check, 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 check. Oh my gosh, I could do this. So I contacted them, and I said, and I offered that perhaps I could be your donor. So obviously they were very touched, and we went to their doctor, and the doctor took one look at me and said, no. Wouldn't even test me. Why? Because he was a big man, and I'm not such a big woman. And they were concerned that perhaps my kidney would not sustain him. Unless there's 1,000% chance, they're very careful when it comes to kidney donation. Unless there's a tremendous chance that this is going to be a success, they don't do it. We tried to, we pushed through, we tried, we appealed. No, that was it. Done. Time goes by. We moved to the Washington, D.C. area. And I got a random email that said, 4-year-old Jewish boy needs a kidney. It was one of those forward things. So I replied. And I said, actually, I looked into this a few months ago. I think I would be a very good candidate to give my kidney to this boy. They wrote back a few days later and said, actually, he's too sick to have the transplant. But would you be willing to be tested for someone else? And that was my first moral dilemma. Man we know and love, take my kidney. 4-year-old Jewish boy, take my kidney. But for someone I didn't even know? And then I thought, well, someone knows them. Just because I don't know them? This is somebody's mother, somebody's wife, somebody's sister, somebody's friend. And I wrote back and I said, yes, I'd be willing to be tested. And I didn't tell my husband. Now, obviously, I told him later. Why didn't I tell my husband? Why bring up something in the marriage when it may lead to nothing? Why throw something in, you know? They wrote back to me, and they said to me, they sent me a lot of forms that I had to fill out. Now it turns out I'm dealing with the Montefiore Hospital in the Bronx in New York. I live in D.C., and this is in New York. And there's a kidney transplant clinic there. And they sent me all these forms, and I had to fill out all these forms, all these medical forms. Mostly a lot about my medical history. And also a little bit psychological things, like why do you want to do this? And I faxed them back in. And a couple of weeks later, they contacted me and they said, you have been accepted as a possible donor. We're called Samaritan donors, the ones who donate to somebody that you don't know. And they said you have to now do a lot of medical tests because they want to make sure you're healthy. And they literally test you from head to toe. And most of the tests, they wanted to happen at their clinic in New York, but some I could do locally. You know all those tests that you push off? Well, they do those, okay? Like, they really test you to make sure you're very, very, very healthy. At this point, I have to tell my husband. So I waited one night till he was in a very good mood, and I said, honey, can we talk about something completely different? He said, sure. And I told him what I was thinking of doing. Now, I want you to appreciate what a great man my husband is. He said to me, I saw the papers on your desk. I was waiting for you to come and talk to me. Now, I want to tell you, if this was reversed, and I saw these papers, I would not be waiting. I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Now, I have to tell you, my husband did not jump up and down and say, yay, 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 yay. He said, hold on. We have 5 kids. What are the risks? You have responsibilities in the Jewish community. We have to ask a shaila to our rabbi. I want to talk to a doctor. I said, great. Talk to the doctor, talk to our rabbi. And then I kept going, because he didn't say no. you know, your husband? Like, he didn't say yes, but he'd say no. So as a wife, you just keep going to here, no. So at that point, whenever I got any offer to speak in New York, I said yes. Because I would fly to New York, speak, go to the Bronx, test. And this went on for months. I want you to know that I told very few people what I was planning to do. Very few. Why? Because almost universally, when I kind of floated this out to people, I got negative response. What are you doing? Why would you do this? You're going to have to be on a restricted diet for the rest of your life. You're risking your life. People have a lot of misconceptions because a lot of that is not true. So because I got so much negative feedback, I stopped telling people. What are the misconceptions that people have? And I have to tell you, my husband had a lot of questions in some of these. So one of his questions, one of the classic questions is, well, what my husband said, what if you donate your kidney to this woman, and then down the road, one of our children needs a kidney, and you gave it to a stranger? I said to him, first of all, what are the chances one of our kids is going to need a kidney? And if they do, God forbid, by my doing what I'm doing for this woman, I hope that their siblings will stand up and fight who gives their kidney. My husband also asked, well, what if down the road you need a kidney? You only have one kidney, and what if something happens to that kidney? Now you don't have a backup kidney. So first of all, my oldest daughter, Shoshana, is also O positive. So I told her, Shoshana, you're my backup kidney. She goes, okay, but who's my backup kidney? And then she got a friend, and they have a friend. We have a whole lineup, all right? But I also told him, it's the best kidney insurance you could have. In New York State, if you need a kidney, it's a 3 to 5 year waiting list to get a kidney. And chances are you're going to get a cadaver kidney, which is somebody who had died. And it's much better to get a kidney from somebody who's alive and healthy. And people are dying every day, waiting. If you're a kidney donor and you donate your kidney, and if down the road, and the Montefiore Clinic told me it happened once, that a kidney donor down the road, for some reason, their kidney failed and they needed a kidney, you go to the top of the list. You get the next kidney available. You don't have to be on any special diet. It's like you're just 4 ounces lighter. And in terms of the danger of surgery, it's the same as an appendix. They've got it refined. It's laparoscopic. They just like go in, they take it out. I call it my kidney vacation. Why? I have 5 children. 4 were cesareans. They opened me up, they took out my guts, they took out a baby, they put my guts back in, they sewed me up, they gave me a newborn baby to take care of 24/7. This time, they went in laparoscopically, took out my kidney, and then everybody took care of me, like I had nobody to take care of. It was actually very nice. And the danger is like appendix, as in, they put you under, and there's anesthetic, and when you have anesthetic, there's always a certain, but it's so minor. And they really have refined it. So, but even if I floated it out, people were negative, so I told very few people, but there was one woman I told. Her name is Rebecca. Who's Rebecca? So my husband and I work in outreach in different communities, and when we landed in Washington, D.C., 10 years ago, it was just before Rosh Hashanah. It was around this time of year. And what we do is, most of the people we're involved with are not observant, and while the service is going on at Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, there's also a parallel track of classes, non-stop classes, because for your average secular Jew, this is the only time they're showing up in shul all year round, and this is an opportunity to engage them. So at Rosh Hashanah, I was one of the featured speakers, and this one couple came, a mature couple, and they were like walk-ins. Nobody knew who they were. And they told me later that the whole time when I was speaking, they kept saying to each other, like, their daughter, Rebecca, has to hear her. Rebecca has to meet her. And between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they were going after their daughter, who was about in her late 20s, who had not been in a shul in a long time. You have to go in Yom Kippur, you have to meet this woman, you have to hear this woman. So finally, just to shut them up, she told me she showed up. She came, she sat at the back, cold Nidre night. That night, she thought she was going to come for 5 minutes, wave to her parents, I'm here, and leave. So that night, I gave a talk called Soul in the Afterlife, Where Do We Go From Here? She stayed for the whole talk. And the next Shabbos, she showed up in shul. And after Kiddush, I invited her back for lunch. I said, why don't you join my family, for lunch? No, I'm going hiking. The next Shabbos, she shows up again. I invited her at Kiddush time to come back for lunch. She goes, no, I'm going shopping, I'm going to a movie. Week after week it was like this until I finally wore her down, okay? So finally, just to get me off her back, she goes, okay, I'll come for lunch. She comes, and it was love at first sight. She just became part of our family. And she really became my best friend. So I told Rebecca what I was planning to do about the kidney. And she was also negative. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? Don't you think you do enough? Why would you put yourself in danger? And I actually said to her, I don't know really what's driving me. But sometimes you have something inside you, and you know that this is the right thing to do and you need to do it. And even if everybody around you tells you you go with that. It was really coming from a very deep place for some reason. She said, okay, I don't agree with it, but I'm your friend, so I'll support you. Great. Now, Rebecca, at one point, I sent her to Israel. She became more observant. She came back. And then as Lance was saying, I run something called the Jewish Women's Renaissance Project, the JWRP. And it's like a birthright for mothers. I started it 8 years ago. Just after, actually, it's interesting, just after the kidney donation, that's when the JWP started. I started with 7 other women in the Washington, D.C. area. Very eclectic group of women, half staunch Democrats, half staunch Republicans, half Shomer Shabbat, half not. And I said I want to start a women's movement based on Jewish values. I don't know how to do it, but we're smart women, we'll figure it out. So we brainstormed and we went through a process that businesses go through to get to a common mission, vision, and purpose. And thankfully, we started this idea of bringing women who are not Shomer Shabbat to Israel to have an 8-day transformational experience. And it grew and it grew and it grew. Last year, we brought 2,400 women from 19 countries. The Israeli government, Ministry of Diaspora Affairs, came to us 2 years ago to partner with us. This thing has exploded. It really it's unbelievable. We brought over 200 women from South Africa, and I met with the chief rabbi. Rabbi Goldstein, and to talk about going even bigger. It really is incredible. Now, the precursor to this was, I always brought women every year, and whoever wanted to come. It was very nice. It wasn't thought out. And one of those trips Rebecca came with. This was during the time when I was being tested. So it was just before the JWP started. And I said to her, go to Israel, come back with me, and it'll be great for you. So she came with me, and I'm telling you, when you're on these trips, it's like, we tell them sleep is for sissies. You're just like running and going and doing, and it's classes, and it's emotional, and it's amazing. And I realized that I needed to just finish up the testing for the kidney in New York. And there's no direct flights from Israel to Washington. You always have to fly through New York. So I said to Rebecca, on the way back, can we just stop for a couple of days and stay in New York for a couple of days? I'll finish the testing, and then we'll go back to Washington. She said, great. So we are totally exhausted. We land, it was an August day at JFK. We land, and there was a crazy storm and a freak storm where a tornado touched down in Brooklyn that morning, and it was chaos. The airport was flooded. It took an hour and a half just for our car service to get into the airport to get us to the Bronx. It took 4.5 hours in hot, humid, stop and go, crazy traffic to get from JFK to the Bronx. And we were exhausted, and we had all the luggage, and Rebecca at one point was hanging over a window as we're going over a bridge. She looked so green. I told her, Rebecca, I can't look at you, you make me sick, okay? Just looking at her. At a certain point, our driver, this Indian man, just was like, I'm pulling over, I'm going home. He was done, okay? And I had to keep him going. I had to somehow keep this guy engaged. So I said to him, I'm donating my kidney to a woman I've never met before. He goes, really? And he asked me, how, don't you need your kidneys? I said, no. You can live a perfectly normal, healthy life with one kidney. And then he asked me the question that I asked Dr. Greenstein, who is a Shomer Shabbos Jew who happens to be the head of the transplant clinic at the hospital. He asked me, if you can live a perfectly normal, healthy life with one kidney, then why would God give you two? And I answered him what Dr. Greenstein told me. Why? One to keep and one to give away. So now, so he's engaged, the driver. He gets us to the hospital. I'm calling the hospital saying, I'm so sorry, I'm late for the testing. They go, everybody's late this morning. All the doctors, don't worry, don't worry. We go right to the hospital itself because we're late. And we drag in our suitcases, and poor Rebecca, and they greet us, and they took one look at Rebecca, and they said, is she the recipient? So we laughed, and we said, no, she's my friend, right? We just this crazy trip. So they took Rebecca and our suitcases to an apartment hotel that the hospital has down the street, and they took me right into the testing. And all day long, test, and I'm passing all the tests, and I was one of those kids in school who liked to pass tests, and yay, okay, great. The day goes by, I go back to the apartment hotel. Now, Rebecca has showered and rested and unpacked. She looks like a different person. And we're laughing about how they thought that she was the recipient. And remember, Rebecca was against this. And I said to her, Rebecca, you know, if God forbid you needed a kidney, I would give you my kidney. She goes, I know. I said, then how can I not give it to this woman just because I never met her? She goes, okay, you got me. So now Rebecca's on board. But still, my husband has not called the doctor, has not called our rabbi, and he's dragging his feet. So, and you need him to be on board. And one of the things when they ask you and they interview you, is your family supportive and are they on board? So our daughter, at the time, our oldest daughter, Shoshana, was going to school in New York, and she was working part-time at Aisha Torah there. And Rabbi Noah Weinberg of blessed memory happened to be in the offices of New York. And Shoshana called me up. She goes, Reb Noah is here. I go, Abba needs to talk to him. Get up on the phone and give Reb Noah the phone. So that's what she did. She calls up her father, my husband, and she hands the phone to Rabbi Weinberg. And my husband explained to Rabbi Weinberg what I was planning to do. And Reb Noah said, this is a very big mitzvah. You should support Lori 100%. And that's all my husband needed to know. And then he was on board. Okay, he's on board, Rebecca's on board, we're moving along, we're good to go. I'm passing all the tests. So then I sit down with the people at the clinic and they go, okay, so we tested you for 3 women. You matched 2 of them. Now, a lot of people ask me, like, were you, and they decided that there's one woman in particular that I'm a best match for. So when I was down to 2, you know, like you're curious, like, can you tell me anything about them? And people ask me, like, or how did you know you're dealing with Jewish people? Which is not something I decided at the beginning had to be, but this is how it all ended up. So, first of all, the email I got, that random email, was from kidneymitzvah@aol.com. Okay? So I knew this is Jewish people. And it turns out, okay, so I said to them, not only ended up being Jewish people, it ended up being religious people. How did I know this? Because I said, can you tell me anything? And they said, yes, the 2 women you matched, one is from Brooklyn and has 9 children, and one is from Muncie and has 7. Do the math, okay? So it turns out the woman from Muncie with 7 children was the best match. And they said, okay, we have to set a date. I said, okay, well, I can't do it in the next couple of weeks because we're moving from a townhouse to a house and I can't be out of commission. And then it's the high holidays, it's Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and they really count on me as a speaker, you know, so I can't do it then. And then it's my daughter's bat mitzvah, and I can't reschedule that. And then there are countries who have booked me even a year in advance to speak, and I just can't cancel them, and I felt terrible. Here I am, this woman needs my kidney, and my calendar is full. And they go, no, Lori. We're sustaining her. It has to be good for you. It has to be good for you. Don't worry. They really protect the donor every minute all the way through. So then we decided the mid-December was the best time. It was December 15th. Why? Because in the work that we do, I know we have a different calendar than you, but I think December is your summer vacation. Well, the Xmas season and everybody goes away. It's actually a slow time for what we do. So, and also in the clinic, it worked out for their calendar as well. So we set the date. Great. So now I go back. And I had to start setting up my life, you know, cover my carpools, lift scheme, carpool, okay? Cover my carpools. And I had to, whatever, just make arrangements. 2 weeks before the surgery, I get a call from the clinic. And they said to me, we just told the woman who you're giving your kidney to that she's having the surgery in 2 weeks. Because they wait till the last minute to tell them. Why? Because a lot of people back out. And they don't want to put them through this emotional roller coaster. Why do people back out? I can see why people back out, because everybody's against what you're doing. You really have to be driven and fight for it. I asked them, I go, well, what did she say? They said, well, she was so emotional, she couldn't believe it. And they asked me, do you want to speak to her? I said, yes, no, yes, no, yes. I did have mixed feelings. My husband actually said, don't speak to her. He goes, what if she's not nice? What if she's judgmental? What if she's a smoker? Like, you're still going to give your kidney to her, but it's going to take away a little bit of the pleasure. Better not to know. But I felt that I needed more of an emotional connection to this woman in order to get me through the next few weeks. So I said to them, yes, I would like to speak to her. Tell her it's not a condition. She does not have to speak to me. But if she wants to talk to me, I want to talk to her. So then I kept my phone on around the clock, 24/6. And every time it would ring, my heart would leap, you know? Like you're waiting for like that special call. And it was never her. Finally, it was a Wednesday night. How do I remember it? Because I only taught one evening class locally. And I'm walking into this 8 o'clock class. And my phone rings. I don't even look at it. And I pick it up. And it's her. And I said to her, oh my gosh, I so want to talk to you, but I'm about to teach a class. Can you call me in an hour? She goes, of course. So during the class, I was so distracted. And at the end of the class, usually the women want to come up to me. They want to talk to me. At the end of the class, I say, class is over. See you next week. Bye. And I went into my office, and she called me. And we talked for 4 hours. I remember the first thing she said to me. She says, Lori, what's thank you? I'm going to say thank you to you. And then she asked me, who are you? And I said to her, are you in front of your computer? She goes, yes. I go on to h.com. She goes on to h.com. I said, scroll down. I have a weekly video blog that I do, a 3-minute thing every week called Lori Almost Live. She scrolls down. I said, click on. That's me. And that's what I do. And then we wanted to know everything about each other. We were the same age. She's also sort of the energy of the family. And she told me what happened to her. That she, she's very fit, she works out all the time, and she got a hernia. And her sisters encouraged her to take care of it. She went and she got tested for her hernia. She has to take care of it. They took routine blood tests. And the blood test came back, and the doctor said, something's wrong with you. And it turned out to be her kidneys, because when something's wrong with your kidneys, you don't even know something's wrong until it's too late. And they told her, the only way to survive this is a transplant. And everybody around her was tested. And nobody matched her except for her sister. But her sister had kidney stones in the past, and the clinic said, we're not doing the surgery. And they appealed, they switched hospitals again, and finally they found a clinic that would do it. But they test you even to the last minute. And she told me, 1 week before the surgery, they found in one of the tests that she was spilling too much protein into her urine, so her kidneys were not at 1,000%, and they canceled the surgery. She said, Lori, when they canceled the surgery, my sister was devastated. My children were inconsolable, and I didn't leave my room for a week. And then she got the call about me. So the plan was that my husband and I were planning to leave on a Sunday. The surgery was set for a Thursday. I would leave on a Sunday, and I'm tested Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if all goes well, Thursday's the surgery. And then I realized that Shabbos, before we're about to leave, this is a bad plan. Why? There's a reason my husband became a rabbi and not a doctor, okay? Like, when I'm giving birth, my husband's like a deer in the headlights, okay? Like, if I cut my finger, I go, honey, can you give me a Band-Aid? Like, all the blood drains from his face, he looks like he's gonna faint. And I'm thinking, this is the guy I'm bringing to the surgery? This is not a good plan. So after Shabbos, I called up Rebecca, and I said, Rebecca, is it possible that maybe you could come with me, and Yaakov could stay home with the kids? She goes, of course. She said, she's got one of those jobs, as long as she has her laptop with her, it's fine. So I said to Yaakov, my husband, I said, honey, maybe it's better if you stay with the kids and Rebecca comes with me. He goes, oh, really? Oh, thank you. Much better plan. So now Rebecca and I drive to New York. It's about a 4-hour drive. And on the Sunday, and as we're getting closer to New York, I get a phone call, and it's her. And she said, would you like to come tonight for dinner? My husband and I would like to meet you, and Rebecca. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I said to Rebecca, she invited us for dinner tonight. And Rebecca's like, well, you're not going to wear that, are you? It was like a first date. Like, we were all so nervous. So we drove out to Muncie, and we met her and her husband. You can imagine how emotional it was. Her husband kept trying to thank me, and every time he tried to thank me, he started crying. You know, when a guy cries, it's like, and I was like, no, it's okay, don't thank me, it's fine. She made us this delicious dinner, but she ate nothing. I go, why aren't you eating? She goes, well, when they diagnosed me a year ago, they put me on a very restrictive diet. I can eat no protein, no dairy, no citrus, no potassium. I'm like, what can you eat? She goes, well, today for lunch I had a rice cake, and for a treat I put a little bit of mayonnaise on it. They told me at the clinic, before I met her, this woman is going to take very good care of your kidneys. She follows all the rules. And thankfully she did follow all the rules, and she was kept off of dialysis because of it. Now, dialysis can sustain a person only for a certain amount of time. You have to appreciate how miraculous our bodies are. Man builds a dialysis machine, and it can only do 15%, 1/5, of what 1 4-ounce kidney that God made us can do. So you just get sicker and sicker and sicker. So she was steps from dialysis. And she showed me wedding albums, because since she had been diagnosed, she married off 2 of her kids. And she's a very private person. So very few people knew she was sick, only the people very close to her. And in the wedding album, seeing her picture, you wouldn't know she was sick. Her pallor was slightly off. And I asked her, first of all, I'm looking at these albums, and I'm seeing like her daughters walking down the aisle and all the family, and I realized this is not just about her. There's her husband, there's her kids, she has 2 little grandchildren. And I asked her, what were you thinking at your daughter's wedding? Here you are diagnosed, nobody matches you. She said, I was thinking, if God forbid I don't get through this and I don't make it, she'll be okay. She married a good guy. She goes, I just wanted to live to marry off my last 2 kids. This is the world I was in. So then Monday I'm tested, Tuesday I meet my surgeon. Dr. Greenstein, who I told you about, is going to be the surgeon who's going to put my kidney into her. But then on Tuesday, I met the surgeon who's going to take the kidney out of me. You have to sign all these forms. If God forbid this happens, and they tell you. But again, a lot of these things, it's just like an appendix. And then she told me, she goes, Lori, you can always change your mind, even at the last minute. She says, when they're wheeling you into the operating room, you can still change your mind. I won't tell them you changed your mind. Let me be the fall guy. I'll tell them I found something surgically and we can't do the transplant. I wake up on Wednesday morning, and it's the first time I was nervous. I said to Rebecca, I'm nervous. She goes, okay, now we're going to distract you, okay? So we go into the city, into New York, shopping, distraction. To really distract me, we decided to take my daughter, Shoshana, and her friends out for dinner. You know, my daughter's in college there. So we pick up Shoshana, we're on the way to the kosher restaurant to meet her friends, and the phone rings, and it's her. I want you to appreciate what a special, special woman this woman is. She said to me, I said, hi, how you doing? Because she's being tested too. How are you? She goes, Lori, I'm calling to tell you, you don't have to do this. You have 5 children. You have responsibilities in the Jewish world. With a full heart, I'll be okay. It's okay. I want you to know, I'm not as nice as she is. If this was reversed, I'd be at home praying, don't change your mind, don't change your mind, don't change your mind. And she's giving me a complete hall pass. Get out of jail free card. I said to her, it's unbelievable that you're saying this, but you're going to see me at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning at that hospital. You can count on me. We get to the restaurant. My phone rings. It's her son. She did not tell her children about the surgery until she had made that call, because they were so devastated when it had been canceled before. I excused myself from the table, and her son says to me, I'm calling on behalf of all the children, my brothers and sisters, to thank you for saving my mommy's life. We love our mommies so much. Dinner's over. We're heading to the hospital, and I was very torn. Should I tell my parents? Shouldn't I tell my parents? Some of my friends said, just wait till after the surgery, like why worry them? I just thought at that moment, you know what? I'm going to tell them. My parents live in Toronto. I called up my parents. My mother answers the phone. I said, hi Mom, can you get Dad on the other line? I want to tell you something together. She goes, what's wrong? I go, no, it's good news. It's good news. My father gets on the other line, and I first said to them, I said, I want to apologize for not telling you until now, but I didn't want to worry you. But I told them, I'm in New York, and this is what I'm about to do tomorrow morning. Later on, I asked my mom, I said, like, what did Dad say when he got off the phone? She said he turned to her and said, well, I wasn't expecting that. They were tremendously supportive. So the next morning, I show up at 6 a.m., I'm with Rebecca, I'm with my daughter Shoshana, and she's there with her husband. My husband calls, because they had to take me in first. You know, it's a little bit emotional talking to my husband. And they had to take me first, because it's going to be hours before, in surgery, before they're going to need her. They prepped me. I thought, you know, they're going to wheel me in. There was no wheeling in. I'm like walking with the nurse into the operating room. People often ask me, was there ever a moment that you thought of changing your mind? And there was one moment, and it's coming up. I'm with the nurse, we walk in. The first room we walk into is a semi-sterile room that leads actually to the operating room. So we walk in, and she puts her hands on the door of the operating room. She goes, are you ready? I said, hold on. I have to say a prayer. She goes, okay. As I knew, before they put me under, I have to say the Shema, because it should be the last thing on your lips before you die, and I am taking a risk. That's why we say it every night. I say the Shema, and Rabbi Noah Weinberg of blessed memory always taught us, the essence of prayer is what do you want, and why do you want it? We all know what we want, but we often don't know why we want it. What did I want? I wanted to live, and I wanted her to live. And the question was, why? Why? What am I going to do with my life? I talked it out with God, and I said to her, okay, I'm ready. She opens up the door, and I walk in, and I freaked out. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. I thought there'd be a doctor, there'd be a nurse, there'd be an anesthesiologist. There must have been 35 people in the room. They're all in hospital garb. It's a big room. They're running around. There's machines everywhere. These concave mirrors. It's cold to keep it sterile. And there's this flat table with straps on it that looks like an autopsy should take place. And I'm supposed to get on that table. And I froze. And I said to myself, Lori, what are you doing? And I closed my eyes and I said to myself, just do it, just do it. And I walked over and I laid on the table. And the next thing I knew, I was in recovery. I have absolutely no memory of it. No memory whatsoever. Rebecca was in recovery with me. She says the first thing I asked for when I came to was like, how is she? Is she okay? But she was still in surgery. And when they finally wheeled her into the recovery room, the first person she asked for was me. Is Lori okay? Dr. Greenstein came in and said to me, Lori, you got a great kidney there. She's pissing up a storm. I want you to appreciate how miraculous our bodies are and what the technology today can do. It was like a car that didn't work, and you took a carburetor out of another car and you put it in and it goes. There's something called your creatinine level that they measure to see how your kidneys are doing. You want a low number. If you're a 10, you're in complete kidney failure. She was a 9 going into the surgery. In 24 hours, with my kidney, she was a 1.2. It's amazing. She has to be on immunosuppressant drugs for the rest of her life, but she's doing great, thank God. I just go on with my life. I really do. Now, I have to tell you, for the first 3 days, so we're both in, now they bring us up to the recovery ward, and the first 3 days were not fun. Okay, it was whatever, there's a little pain or whatever it is, but just like with anybody here who's had more than one baby, okay? My husband says, God gives you amnesia, so you'll do it again, okay? Like really, it's like, okay, it's passing, but then you get a baby, all right? So it was a couple of days where it was a little bit uncomfortable, and then after a couple of days, I took my little, IV bag and my stand, and I shuffle down the hall to see her. And for her, it's a heavier recovery. And she said to me, Lori, I don't know how to explain to you how I feel about you. She goes, it's like I was standing on the road and a truck was hurtling at me full force, and you stepped in between me and the truck and you stopped the truck. So I have to tell you, this was a game changer for me on many levels. And when I tell people this was the greatest experience of my life, sometimes people are critical of that. Well, how could it be greater than having children? Well, really, the initial desire to have a child is a selfish desire. I want a baby. See my baby? It doesn't take long before you realize you're in it for them and not for what they're going to do for you. Our rabbi said if you had children for what they're going to do for you, get an English butler. They're cheaper, okay? But the initial desire is really a little bit of a selfish desire. This was the purest opportunity that God ever gave me to give, just to give. And some people were critical of me. Well, listen, Lori, I can understand giving it to like a parent, a sibling, but to give it to somebody you don't even know? And I always tell them, I was so happy to give to somebody I don't know. Why? First of all, I'm happy I don't know anybody who needs a kidney. And second, I'd rather give it to a stranger. I have a friend. Her name is Ruth. We're very good friends. Our kids are friends. We carpool together. We work together. Imagine, God forbid, Ruth needed a kidney. Of course I would give her my kidney. Now it's 6 months later, and I'm flying to LA that week to speak. Imagine I call up Ruth and go, Ruth, can you cover my carpool this week? I have to go to LA to speak. Imagine Ruth says, you know what, Lori? I got a busy week. I can't do it. What am I thinking? I gave you my kidney. You can't cover my carpool? It creates like an imbalanced relationship. And I don't know about you. I don't want imbalanced relationships. I don't want somebody to feel like they owe me. You need a kidney, take my kidney, goes into, hey, have a good life. You don't owe me anything. Three years after the surgery, we became very close. We talk all the time. We see each other when we can. But 3 years after the surgery, she invited me to her daughter's wedding. So of course I traveled to Muncie and went to her daughter's wedding. How do you think I felt at her daughter's wedding? I'm sitting there, the chuppah is happening. I don't know how to describe to you the pleasure I felt seeing her under the chuppah with her daughter at her daughter's wedding. After the ceremony, the family leaves the chuppah. She runs into my arms, crying, thanking me for letting her live to see this day. To see her dance at her daughter's wedding? If you knew the pleasure what would I have traded for that moment? What could be greater than that moment? What could be a greater pleasure? What amount of money could you have given me to trade it? What experience, what material possession? It was priceless. If you only knew. A year after the surgery, Rosh Hashanah time, I remember it was a crazy day. Being married to a rabbi during the high holidays is like being married to an accountant at tax season, okay? It's crazy, all right? And because we're in outreach, I'm preparing classes and I'm teaching and we're hosting a ton of people. And I remember my daughter Brachaleah was helping me that day, like cooking and taking care of everything. And I said to her, like, if we get done in time, we're going to get our nails done before Yom Tov begins. Because I don't know, it's like once you got your nails done, you're good. All right. So I said to her, so we finished, and I said, okay, let's go. So we run, and we're at the manicurist, and the phone rings, and it's her. And I said to her, Good Yom Tov, Shana Tova, how you doing? How you feeling? She goes, Lori, I'm calling to thank you for my life. Last Rosh Hashanah, I was davening for my life. I said to her, Kol Nidrei night, I'm going to talk publicly for the first time about our experience. There's going to be hundreds of people there. I asked her, is there anything you want me to share with them from you? She said, yes. She said, Lori, please tell them, when you look around and you see people in need, don't look away. We're all about to walk into Rosh Hashanah. The number one thing we're all going to ask for, write me in the book of life. Give me another year of life. But what do you want, and why do you want it? The Almighty says, you want another year? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? The kidney donor awareness, people have a lot of misconceptions about it in the Jewish community. They think, oh no, it's against Jewish law. It's not. It's not. There are things that, you have to ask questions of what you're allowed to do and not to do. But bone marrow, kidney donation, blood donation, it's pikuach nefesh. You're saving somebody's life. You're completely allowed to do it. So normally when a country asks me, or a city asks me to come and speak, I usually say no. I almost always say no. Why? Because going to Israel so often with the women, thousands of women, so many trips, and there are certain countries I need to go to, and if I don't go, they're not going to partner with us, it's not going to happen, and we want to help the Jewish communities in that country, so I have to go to Moscow, and I have to go to Berlin, and I have to go to Greece. So when they asked me to come here, originally I actually said no, I feel terrible. I said, you know what, it's just not going to happen. And it's such a long trip from America. I tell people, the flight is like a punishment from God, okay? It's unbelievably long. And I also said, my daughter, it's her summer break. We're on summer break right now, and I'm not leaving during a summer break. So they said, no, bring your whole family. You'll have a family vacation and you'll do this. And normally I would say no, but not for this cause. Not for this cause. This is very personal. It's very personal to me. And I'm here to tell you, I know many, many, many kidney donors now. And the only regret any of us has is that you can't do it again. I want to thank you. I want to give you a blessing for a good year, a happy year, a healthy year. You should see opportunities to give. Takers are happy people at the moment. But in the long run, givers are happy people. Be a giver. Thank you very much.